Wow, this is a lot of fun, man. This is really exciting to see all this really come together. Welcome back. This is the MLM podcast, and I know some of you are probably thinking multi-level marketing, and if you're thinking that, that's fine, right? Because I've been a part of multi-level marketing now for 21 years. I think today on this episode, because I didn't do it on the first time, on the first episode, I'm going to share a little bit more about my story so we get a chance to know each other a little bit better. I sometimes, unfortunately, assume that you already know who it is that I am, but there are billions of people that don't know who I am yet that hopefully one day we get a chance to watch this and they'll get to know me and I'll get to know them as well. So excited to be on here. This is the second episode. And listen, I'm not going to have a suit and tie on every single time. I'm just in, growth mode right now. So every day I'm coming into my office, suit and tie, ready to do business. But it won't happen every single time. All right. So don't expect a suit and tie every time. But real quickly, guys, I'll share a little bit of myself. I was born at a very young age. It's one of my jokes that I've been telling for many, many years. But yeah, and growing up, obviously, great parents, David and Kumbi. Those are my mother and my father, and grew up in a great home. I really did. My parents worked very, very hard. My dad was a professional tennis player. My mom was always an entrepreneur. She was also a music minister as well, and she also became a pastor along with my dad as well. They became pastors, and so grew up in the church. I was in church 8 days a week, all right. And my first 10 years of my life was in Nigeria. All right, I was in Nigeria first 10 years. So I'm originally from Nigeria. And my parents made a decision for us to move to the United States. And initially it was just going to be my mother and my two sisters, Ariane and Valerie. Here I am, 10 years old. We lived pretty comfortably in Nigeria. And now we come here. Comfortable in Nigeria or above average in Nigeria is poor in America, okay? It's very, very poor. So I watched my mom really, really struggle, but I watched her struggle, but not lose her faith, right? Not lose her determination, her tenacity, her boldness, the courage that she had. She had to go on welfare. Back then, welfare, the food stamps, they didn't come on debit cards. It was a little paper food stamps. And I remember when my mom would have to sell those food stamps to actually get cash. So she would sell $10 in food stamps for $5 in cash, or $20 in food stamps for $10 in cash. And I remember this. I remember the first car she ever bought. When we first moved there, we were actually living with her cousin. And this was in maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. It was me, my mom, and my two sisters, all three of us, including my mom, in this one room. Okay, and I remember the first car my mom purchased was a 1979 Pontiac. It was brown. If you ever seen a brown car, like legit brown, and it was like a tan backdrop, And we actually gave it a name, and that name was Mercy. All right, and my mom is watching this; she's probably gonna laugh, but it was the mercy of God for that car to start every single day. But that was my upbringing. It was church, it was school, it was tennis, right? And then I'll never forget, in 1988, my mom had traveled to the U.S. and she came back with this cassette tape. And it was a Michael Jordan Come Fly With Me cassette tape. So here I am, a 5-year-old kid. I didn't know who Michael Jordan was. I didn't know who he was. This was my first exposure to him. He came into the NBA in 1984. I think I know every stat when it comes to Michael. I don't know if there's anybody who can outduel me in Michael Jordan stats. But anyway, he got drafted in 1984. I didn't know him. We were in Nigeria, didn't really have exposure to the NBA back then. And she came on with this tape, Michael Jordan Come Fly With Me. Listen, I watched that tape over and over. I mean, I watched it 10,000 times possibly. Still to this day, I can speak word for word on that tape. So people that wonder, why do I have such a love for Michael? Well, it started, for a lot of people like me as a child. But we ended up moving, fast forward a little bit, moved to the United States and with my mom and my two sisters, and it was a struggle. It was really, really tough. But I never forget, my mom got involved in multi-level marketing. She got involved in a company called Primerica, formerly known as Art Williams. So I remember her going to those meetings and listening to those tapes and all that stuff. And I guess that's where the bug first hit me when it came to network marketing. Went to grade school, went to high school. My parents ended up moving here to Houston, and I didn't want to move to Houston. I didn't want to move to Texas, right? Here I am, a city boy, New York. So I ended up going to college in North Carolina, and that's where life really started to take form. And initially, life did not look like it was going to pan out. And a lot of times in life, there are things that happen to us that we don't know that they're not happening to us, they're actually happening for us. There are going to be certain challenges, obstacles, events that take place in our lives that at that very moment, it may feel like this is the end of the world. I don't know if you've ever been there before where you had certain things take place in your life and you just like, wow, like, man, like, how did I get here? How am I going to get through this? I mean, this is tough. This is challenging. And then if you're able to actually stay in faith and stay in motion, right, you're able to look 2, 3, 20 years down the line and realize that if it wasn't for that event, if it wasn't for those challenges, if it wasn't for that person that hurt you, if it wasn't for that person that helped you, if it wasn't for that particular situation, you wouldn't be where it is that you are today. I'm pretty sure if you're watching me right now, you've experienced something like that. Well, that's what my whole life has been about. My whole life, 42 years that I've been on this planet has been about, and your life has been about, it's been about trials, it's been about tribulations, and it's been about wins. It's been about triumphs. If you're really honest with yourself, you know that there's a balance. Everybody's going to have that balance of good things that happen and not so good things that happen. But here's what we believe. We believe that everything works out for our good, right? We believe that everything works out for our good. So even though some things happen and it may seem terrible at that particular time, it's actually working out for your good. And so in starting this podcast here, you see where it says motivation, love, and money. Well, if you look at your life, your faith, your health, your finances, your family, everything really starts with what your motivation is, what your desire is. The book Think and Grow Rich says that the desire is the starting point of all achievement. I'm sure at some point on any one of these episodes, I'll be covering with you the success formula, right? Desire plus skill times faith equals success. I'm not going to do that today, but we know that desire is a driving force, right? Motivation, what's the motive for your life? That's what motivation comes from, right? It's a motive. What's the motive for what it is that I'm doing? What's the motive for starting this podcast? What's the motive for starting a company? What's the motive for starting a family? What's the motivation, right? And, what's the goal? What's the dream, right? If you're living your life without a goal, without a dream, without a purpose, something that wakes you up early in the morning, what are you willing to lay it on the line for right now? What are you willing to give up everything for right now? What is that one thing that you truly desire above everything else in life, that you're willing to give everything towards it, all right? And if you don't have that thing, my hope is that over the next few days, weeks, months, years that we get a chance to spend together, get a chance to know each other, that you find that motivation, that you find that purpose, right? It was a book that was written, I think it was Rick Warren, The Purpose-Driven Life. I don't believe you can have an incredible life without a purpose, without a dream, without a vision, a goal, right? See, goals, Goals are so powerful. I came up with an acronym years ago: Go out and live. I don't believe you have a. I don't believe you're living if you don't have a goal. See, your goal is your only exit from your past. A goal energizes you, right? It motivates you. It drives you. It gives your life meaning if you really think about it. All right. And I love that saying. I learned that from Mike Murdoch, that your goal was your only exit from your past. And then Mike said that, David, you got to make your goal so big that yesterday dies. Because so many of us, every single day, we're living in yesterday. Right? I mean, think about it. We spend more time thinking about yesterday than thinking about tomorrow. We spend more time thinking about what happened last week, last month, last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what she did to me, what he did to me 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We spend so much time thinking about those things. And it robs us of the motivation. It robs us of the drive and the determination and that desire and that dream. You know, I want you to really get connected to that. I want you to find out what, and I'm going to give you some tools as to how you can find out what really motivates you. I'll tell you, what really motivates me is to see people win. But even deeper than that is to see people believe. That's one of my biggest motivators. Is I love to see people when they're in a state of believing. I love to see people when they're in the state of going for something, knowing that they can accomplish something, believing in God, believing in a higher purpose. I love to. I'm addicted to seeing that actually happen, because I know what that pressure cooker looks like. I know when you're fighting for a goal and fighting the good fight of faith. But I also know what it feels like to overcome and to win. All right? So, motive for starting this podcast, or motive for, starting a company or starting a family, whatever, you gotta have a motive, ladies and gentlemen. It's got to be something that's driving you. All right? You must make your goal so big that yesterday dies. I mean, you really think that's a powerful statement right there. What's waking you up early in the morning? What's got you, sometimes what's even got you worried? Sometimes your goals put you in a state of worry. And I know we teach don't worry, worship. Yes, true, but we're also humans, right? How do you handle worry? Right? How do you handle those moments of anxiety? How do you handle those moments of fear of, is it going to work? The moments of wondering, God, is this is all going to be worth it? I don't know if you've ever been there before, but I've been there, right? And then you just take one step forward. You just keep going, because you just never know. You never know where that dream, that vision, you never know who that person is going to come into your life. It's going to make all the difference. You don't know, but because you kept on moving, because of this motive that you have. I mean, I don't know where my life would be right now if I quit 20 years ago. I don't know where my life would be if I quit 15 years ago. I don't know where my life would be if I quit a week ago. Right? A lot of people quit. They quit the fight. But it's the fight that gives you life. The fact that you can still be in a fight right now means that you still have life. And there's so many people that would love to be in your position right now. They would love to be able to still have a chance and have an opportunity and have a dream, a goal, a desire, something that they want to accomplish. Bob Proctor said something in the movie The Secret. He said, see yourself with the good that you desire. He said that every religious book has mentioned that. Every great philosopher has mentioned that. So this motivation part, this dream part, this desire part, this goal, you got to learn to start to see yourself there. You look at the word there, everybody has a here and everybody has a there. That there is the motivation. That there is the goal, the dream, whether it's a financial goal, a health goal, a family goal, it's there. And you're here, right? You're here right now. You're here with me. But you're looking at that there and saying, man, how can I get there? How can I get the right information? How can I get the right inspiration? How can I get the right contacts? How can I get the right skill sets? How can I get the right, ingredients in order for me to get there? And the only difference between those two words is the letter T. And that T is the time. What am I going to do with the time that I have from where I am right now here in order to get there? And what you do with that time. What information am I going to get? What skill sets am I going to develop? What type of mindset am I going to acquire? Right? What books am I going to read? What audios am I going to listen to? What podcasts am I going to study? What coach am I going to seek out, a mentor that I'm going to go out there and get in order for me to get there? Now, what's amazing about there is that someone has already accomplished your there. Someone is where your there is right now. They're out there, okay? They're there. They're living that life that you want to live. They're driving the car you want to drive. They're living in the home that you want to live in. They've got the family that you want. They've got the body that you want. It's there. And now, can I get in close proximity to that person? Can I get in close proximity to that environment of what it feels like? Because all that, doing that is going to increase my motivation. It's going to increase my motive because now I'm getting a chance to experience it before it even happens. I mean, these are things that not only have I learned, but things that I went and applied and I saw it work in my life. God will never expose you to anything that he didn't want you to have. And I don't know about you, but in my life, every time I've wanted something, he's shown me that very thing in the life of someone else. And he didn't show it to me for me to be jealous or envious. He showed it to me to say, son, if I can do it for her, if I can do it for him, then guess what? I can do it for you too. All right? So now I look to get in close proximity with those people. Can't tell you how much money and time I've invested to get in close proximity to the right people, the right mentors and leaders. So something that's on them, right? Joel was talking about the mantle yesterday. All right, something that's on them. My spiritual father, Apostle Hilliard, years ago, I prayed with him. I said, listen, I want a double portion of your ability to teach the power of believing in faith. I want that on my life. And he prayed it, and I don't know if I have a double portion, but it's, I don't know too many people that could teach on the power of belief and get the insights that I get. I don't know too many people that have that. I don't. Maybe they're out there. I just don't know them. But you've got to figure out what that motive is. And I told you I was going to give you some tools, but 2 questions you have to ask yourself. What do I love and what do I hate? See, I love people. And that's not a figure of speech for me. It's not. It's not a figure of speech for me. It's everything for me. It's a commandment. It's a commandment to love people. Right? And the true definition from my perspective of what love is, there's so many different definitions. Obviously, love is God. But the proof of love, let me say that, the proof of love is giving. It's giving of time, giving resources, right? It's giving. For God so loved the world that he gave. So that told me right then and there what the proof of, for God so loved the world that he gave. Well, he showed his love by what? By giving. He showed his love by giving. So, when you say you love people, or when you say you love, right, how are you giving to humanity? How are you giving to, the people that are in your life? How are you giving to your family? How are you giving to your loved ones? How are you giving to your friends? How are you giving to your coworkers or your business partners? How are you giving? Because that's going to be the proof of love. So what do I love? I love people. So it's my motive. My motive, even doing this right now, is because I love people. I'm believing that something I'm going to say is going to give some level of hope, or something I'm going to say is going to give some insight, some information that maybe, just might, I don't know for sure, but just might make a difference today in your life that will carry you in tomorrow. I wish I had that opportunity with my little sister. I wish I had an opportunity to have that day with her where I could pour into her and say, you're beautiful and you're amazing, and God's got something great for you, and he's going to do it, and give some type of motivation. But you know, the truth of the matter was, I was blinded by something I couldn't see. See, mental health is not a physical disease, but it has detrimental physical, outcomes. If someone was a cripple, someone was paralyzed, you wouldn't fault them for not being able to walk. You would understand that. All right? You would get that. You wouldn't force them. You wouldn't belittle them. Right? But mental health